Hello, this is RJ Podesky, and today we're going to be building a phone photo prints app as a case programming project to practice our icons and decision-making controls in our mobile app. Going to, as usual, start a new Android Studio app, and we are going to call this phone photo prints app, and we'll leave the default project location. And we'll make sure that this is set to 15 API 15 Android 4.0.3 ice cream sandwich phone and tablet. And we will click next, and we will select a basic activity to begin. Excuse me, I always get this one messed up. We're going to select the empty activity to begin and click next. And we'll leave the default activity, main activity layout, and we will let this generate and get things set up. Alright, now that all of our defaults are rendered, we're going to get rid of our Hello World default text here, and we will change our default emulator from Nexus 4 to Nexus 5 1080 by 1920. Alright, we're now going to add an icon to our screen, or to our app. So we're going to open up Res and Layout, go to Activity Main, going to right click, and we're going to do a new image asset. And from our launcher icon, we are going to for our name, we're going to select the image radio button here to the left, and for our path we will use our right ellipses, and I'm gonna scan to my files. And in my directory I'm going to select iclauncherphoto.png, which is an image file that looks like this right here. It'll be used as our icon. I'll select OK there, and we can see our different formats based on the resolution. And we're going to trim the background as well. I'm going to click the next button, and it will go ahead and create all of those different versions for me, and I can click Finish. And it'll add those for me. We're going to select a different theme so our icon shows up properly. So here we're going to select the holo.light theme and select OK. And now we can see that our phone photo prints app has our icon next to it, which is great. We do need to update the theme in the styles.xml file as well. So we're underneath values, we're going to open up the styles.xml, and we're going to change the parent theme to theme.appcompat.light without the dark action bar text. So it looks like app theme parent equals theme.appcompat.light. Go ahead and save my project and close my styles.xml file. So we need to identify our app as well within our main activity.java, and so we are going to add some code here as well to add some depth to our support action bar to display our launcher icon properly. So we will put our support.action bar, our IC launcher, and display our logo is set to true as well. We will save our application again. Okay, as we've done in the past, we do need to add some elements to our strings.xml file. So I'll go there and I'll open up my translations editor. You can see that our app name is in there just fine. We're now going to add a few others as well. So we will add txt title. We're also going to add a hint for our text box. And we will add some other variables as well for our radio buttons. Oops. And I'm going to go ahead and add two more. And so we've got our three sizes of prints added here, and we're also going to create one for our button called button order, and we'll call that order prints for its text. So this is what I should have now as my values in my translations editor or my strings.xml file. Now that I have these added, I'm going to close out of my translations editor and strings.xml file, move to my main activity, and we're going to start putting some text view controls and center them appropriately. And we will call this txt title, and the text we will choose will be our txt title phone photo prints. We'll click OK. We're going to change our text size to 30 SP. And we're going to view all properties. We're going to go to our text color. And we are going to change that to red, perhaps. Or you could also use the color wheel and from the color wheel you could select something specific to the project or even something specific to the app theme if you were interested. So we're going to use this dark blue here for fun. And under our layout margin property, we're going to expand that, and under the top property, we're going to set that to 15 dp. So it's centered a specific amount from the top of the app. Alright, we're now going to scroll down, and from our text fields we're going to allow the user to enter in some specific text. We want them to enter in numbers only because they're ordering a specific amount of prints. So we're going to drag a number field here right into the middle. We're going to view fewer properties. We're going to call this txt prints. Oops. that hint that we created earlier in the translation, we're going to select that here so that it tells the user number of prints over the box. And we're going to change the text size to 25. We now want our hint to be centered, so we're going to list all our properties and go to the gravity property and set that to center horizontal so it's a little bit easier to read. I'm going to scroll down and hide these, and the next thing we're going to do is add our radio buttons. But first we are going to add a radio group container for which to put our selectable items for our different prints on here. So I'm going to add the radio group, and then we're going to add 3 different radio buttons for each of our different pictures. So I'm going to drag radio button here into the middle, right on top of our radio group for our radio button. And we are going to call that rad 4x6. And our text is going to match our rad 4x6 element from our strings.xml file. Now, right now you can see that this is not inside of the container. You can try to drag it down. It's still not technically inside of this. If you drag it on top of the radio group where you see that little black arrow on the left, then it will dump that inside of that container properly for you. We are going to not have a we're going to have our 4x6 be the default print, so we will check our checked box from our properties. So this one's checked by default, but the user can always select a different one. We're going to change our size to 20. And we're also going to change our text color to match our theme from up above. And I'm now going to go ahead and repeat this process for my other 2 radio buttons. Again, it kind of gets funky there. I drag it back on top of my radio group. And here I can drag it underneath so it's centered properly. And then we will add our 3rd radio button called rad 8x10. Select our text, change our color, change our size, and we will also go and change our layout margin. So that the left is 10 and the top is 5 dp. Again, we'll have to finagle this and get it back inside of the container properly and reorder these a bit. Our last object we're going to add to our palette here is our button to order prints. I want to make sure this does not show up inside the container. So do make sure it's on the outer level there. Again, you may have to move it around a bit. We'll call this BTN order. Change our resource to order prints there. We will change our text size to 25 SP. And we've got our order prints button set. We do need to put one more text control on here that will display the total price for our user so they know how much their prints are going to cost. Pardon me while I get my button placed back where I want to. And then we will add our text view control widget here to the middle. And we will call this TXT total. Our text size will be 25 dp. And our text will be blank because we will calculate that. And we're going to change our text color to something a little bit different so our user sees what it is. So we'll make it pink. And then we are going to save our project. We are now going to hop into our main activity.java and start adding some code to our Java file so that we establish some variables, instantiate them for what our values mean, and select how these radio buttons are going to get coded, and then do the calculation to multiply the number of prints by the type of picture the user has selected. So we're going to need some variables. For our calculation and what each one equals. Our 5x7 is going to equal 49 cents. And our 8x10 is going to equal 79 cents. And we need a variable to store how many prints the user selects. And we also need a variable to store the total cost of the print order. We now need to code our radio buttons and set their values. So I'm now going to use the code I used from the last project and modify it so I get the syntax right. So this now is going to be our number of prints. And it will be equal to our value from our activity main called txt prints. And we'll call these 4, 6, 5, 8. And then we need one more of these for our third option. So we have 3 buttons. And we'll call this 8, 10. Use proper camel case here. So it's easier for the programmer to read. And we'll change all these to our names of our radio buttons. 4x6. 5x7, and 8x10. And we'll have to do Alt-Enter on these to import the proper classes into our program. Okay, we also need a place to assign our text view control for our result. And so we'll call that result, but this is going to be called txt total in our project, we'll import the text view values as well. And the last piece of this section is to code our button. I'm not going to call this convert. I'm going to call this order. And we're going to call this btn order to assign the value to our button. And again, we'll need to import that class as well into our project. So now we need to create a section of code that's going to have our conditional logic in it to do an on-click listener for our button, so that it'll do the calculation, and based on what is clicked, it'll do the multiplication properly, so we get our result. So we set a new listener instantiation here, and should be able to open up some brackets here as well. So now I need to identify what my numprints is going to be equal to and accept that value in from the user in my text box. Okay, now that I have my numprints equal to the numprints from my getText, I have some conflicting references here, so I need to change this from numprints is equal to prints.getText. There we go. And then we've also got a line in here, and we're importing the decimal format so that if somebody enters in a fractional, we can go ahead and convert it for them, even though it should only accept integer. But just in case, we'll go ahead and set this up, because we might need it later here as we set up probably pennies as people multiply. Okay, we're now going to set up an if statement that's going to say if for 6, our variable up above in line 30, we're going to see if that value is checked. And I'm going to wrap this in parentheses as well. And then we're going to look to see if numprints is less than or equal to 50, as those were requirements as well. So we're going to have a nested if statement in here. So if it's less than or equal to 50 and 4/6 is checked, then we want to make our total cost equal to for 6 times 4/6. I gave the wrong value here. We don't want to multiply that by the radio button. That's not possible. So we're going to multiply it by numprints times 4/6, which is the value up above of 19 cents. So that should make more sense. And we will now call this, we need to set a result message here. And our txt total dot set text is going to be equal to a string value that says the order total is, we'll give it a $, and then we will concatenate it with our value, and we'll apply that value to our total cost. 100th dot format, and then we will apply total cost. Although I changed this, I can't use the variable from the main from the window. I have to use what I set it to on line 33, which was I grabbed from my text view control and assigned it to the variable called result, and then said result.setText here in my statement assignment here. Now I need to assign our else condition, and for this we will make text. Using the toast class to apply a message to the user, and we will need to import that as well. And must order less than 50 prints. Length long, and dot show. Alright, had a few syntax errors with some parentheses and not using equals, but parentheses here instead on my set text, so I got those resolved. And then now we should be able to use this as a format for my other two radio buttons. So I'm going to use my if statement here and copy it. Going to move this down. Instead of 4.6 checked, this is going to be 5.7 is checked. Num prints left in 7, and this will be 5 by 7. And then we will do this again and say if 8.10 is checked, then we will multiply this instead by 8 by 10 and calculate our total cost. And I'll clean up a few blank spaces here to make it a little bit easier to read. And I don't have any errors or red squiggly lines, so that's good. I'm going to go ahead and save my project, and I'm now going to execute this and give it a test. And when this comes up, we will select our Nexus 5 device and let it spend some time rendering. Okay, so our phone photo prints app is loaded here, and I can select 10 number of prints from the keyboard and say order prints, and we can see our order is $1.09. Really should format that a little bit better. So it's never without any fixes. Order prints of 15 is $2.85. If I change this to 15 5x7s, it's $7.35. And 15 8x10s is $11.85. And we can hit our exception if we try to order more than 50 prints. Must order less than 50 prints. One thing I did notice with this project is some little more error handling could be in here. If I don't enter in anything and select order prints, the app crashes, so we should probably make sure it is a non-negative integer and do some data validation before this goes in. But this is it's a good working prototype of a phone photo prints app where you can enter in the number of prints and do some multiplication and end up with the number of prints that you'd order and get the total price at the end. So again, this is the end of the project of the phone photo prints out of the Android Bootcamp textbook. Thanks so much.